Remember to like, subscribe, share, and consider donating, please, to keep this channel going. Links are below. It really does make a difference. Thank you. I spent 30 years riding through Yellowstone's backcountry. Tens of thousands of miles through wilderness most people will never see. I know how to read that land, the way a stream moves, how wildlife shifts when something's wrong, what the silence means. But there's one secret I've kept that still keeps me awake at night. There's one thing in Yellowstone that doesn't have a name, because naming it would be admitting the park has lost control. It's a presence that doesn't just inhabit the backcountry. It's the architect of the fear you feel when the wind stops. It's the thing that makes the birds go quiet and a horse's hooves turn to stone. It happened in the summer of 1978, up in the Fan Creek drainage in the northwest corner of the park. That's in the heart of Thorofare region, the farthest point from any road in the lower 48 states. You can't get there in a day on foot. You can't get there by car. You have to commit to it. And once you do, you're dependent on it for survival. There's a specific kind of silence that only exists in the thoroughfare. It's not the absence of noise. It's the feeling that the land is holding its breath, impatient for you to leave. And in 1978, I finally found out what was doing the waiting. What I'm about to describe happened there, and the earth and the ground knew something was about to go wrong before I ever did. It wasn't the sighting that got me first. It was the scream. This was mid to late 70s. I was riding up Fan Creek with an outfitter, just a quiet day, two of us, talking on our horses. And then all at once we heard this voice coming from up the drainage, maybe a mile away. I thought I knew every vocalization a mammal could make in the mountains. But what came screaming out of Fan Creek that afternoon didn't just break the silent, peaceful surroundings, it thickened it. The sound began as a high-pitched scream, like a woman shrieking or a child in absolute terror, but with the power beyond a man. Then it shifted. The pitch dropped into something deeper, a howl that wound down and faded at the edges, only to start up again. There were these whoops mixed in, loud, weird, almost mechanical-like. But what really got under my skin was the chatter beneath it, articulate, deliberate, like something was trying to speak in a language I didn't have a name for. A rapid-fire gibberish that sounded almost like it was having a conversation. And it kept going on, filling the whole valley. The outfitter heard it too. He'd spent decades in those mountains, and neither of us could identify what we were hearing. The old ranger superstition started creeping in. You hear stories around the fire, whispered, never said out loud to outsiders. The Apsaraka Indians, the people who lived and hunted those mountains long before the park existed, called it the home of the Sasquatch. Just stories, legends, the kind of thing rangers talk and make fun of when the sun goes down in front of a crackling fire and the darkness feels its thickest. Maybe it was animals in distress, an elk caught in something, or a bear in dispute. The more I thought about it, though, the less those made sense. I timed how long it kept going. The sound just wouldn't stop. No breath, no pause, no break in the sound. Whatever made it didn't need to breathe. It didn't stop. I told myself to forget it, file it away as one of those mysteries that the backcountry holds on to. I spent years trying to bury that sound under the weight of my paperwork and routine patrols, convincing myself it was just an anomaly. But the mountains have a way of forcing you to come back to what you tried to forget. Years after the sound echoed through Fan Creek, I was on a solo patrol of Sportsman Lake Cabin. I'd headed up into one of those high-elevation meadow complexes. Subalpine fir scattered around like the forest had given up and retreated, 11 miles away from anything resembling civilization. The horses started acting strange before we ever got to the meadow. They were flaring their noses, snorting hard, the same reaction they have when a grizzly bear is close, real close. But I could see fairly well all around me, scanning the meadow and the tree line, and there was nothing there. No bear, no birds, nothing. But some kind of tension in the air that makes a horse want to bolt. I held them there, but with effort. They were genuinely afraid, fighting the bridle, their muscles locked tight. That's when I realized the temperature had shifted. The afternoon was warm, normal for that elevation, but there was this cold settling all around me, just in that spot. The sweat on the back of my neck turned icy cold. My breath became different, like the air had gotten thicker, harder to pull in. I was scanning down below me into the meadow, maybe 40 or 50 yards down, when I saw a deer at the edge of one of those dense subalpine thickets, just standing there, alert but not panicked yet. Then all at once it bolted, moving perpendicular to me, jarring ahead like something had spooked it from the other side. Right then, coming out of the thicket on the opposite side, was this huge thing running on 2 feet. My first instinct was, it's a bear. But the second I registered what I was actually seeing, I knew I was wrong. This thing was black like a bear, shaggy, long arms, swinging as it moved. But nothing about it matched a bear. The proportions were wrong. The way it ran was wrong, even for a human. It was about 7 to 7.5 feet tall. The sides of its face had heavy fur covering it. I only got a good look at the head for maybe the first 10 steps, before it started angling away. The body was stocky, more compact than a human frame. The arms, and this is what stuck with me, swung differently than a human's would. They didn't have elbows cocked. The movement was wrong in a way I couldn't articulate at first, but I knew I was looking at something non-human. I watched it for maybe 30 seconds, and that's when it happened. The thing stopped. It slowly turned its massive head towards me, and that's when I saw its face, full on, for the first time. The teeth. Damn, the teeth were something else. These long canines, yellowed with decay, curled back as it drew its lips back in a snarl that threatened. Then it stopped. Its whole body went rigid, and that massive head swung towards me. For the first time, I saw what was really behind those eyes. Not fear, not confusion, intent. Raw, focused intent. It charged. The thing moved faster than anything that size had a right to move. It came straight at me and my horse, covering 30 yards before I even had time to react. My horse didn't hesitate. The moment that creature committed to the run, we were already in motion. I didn't have to ask. The animal spun and bolted down the slope, away from the thicket, towards open ground. Behind us, I could hear it crashing through the subalpine fir, like the forest wasn't even there. The sound of its footfalls was wrong, too heavy, too rhythmic, too determined. I'd been riding hard country for 30 years, but I'd never felt a horse move like this. Pure panic, pure survival. We hit the edge of the meadow at a gallop, and I didn't look back. Not once. I just held on and let the horse run down the slope, away from the tree line, toward the open where nothing that size could move without being seen. By the time I dared to glance over my shoulder, it was gone, back in the timber, watching from somewhere I couldn't see. Then I heard the scream again. It came from somewhere deep in the timber, echoing off the ridge behind me. That same sound from Fan Creek, the one that had filled the whole valley years earlier. But this time it was different. This time it was closer, and it was deliberate. My horse froze beneath me. We both understood what was happening. The creature wasn't hunting us anymore. It was claiming its territory. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the reins. My horse was trembling beneath me, sides heaving, eyes still locked on that tree line. I knew right then that I couldn't tell anyone about this. Not the rangers, not my supervisors, no one. So I said nothing until it ate at me. A few years after that, a crew went into the southeast corner of the park, examining white bark pine blister rust. They weren't looking for anything unusual. They were doing forestry work, documenting disease progression in the high country. But they came across something that made them abandon everything and head straight out. When they called me over, they weren't just spooked, they were sick. They found a kill site The ribs were shattered, the spine twisted in ways bones shouldn't bend. Blood pooled in the snow in a radius that told you one thing. Whatever did this had done it with overwhelming force and without mercy. Surrounding it were footprints, massive, stretched far apart, pressed deep into the snow, the kind of stride that belonged to something moving with purpose. The same crew heard that sound again near Mountain Creek, the same drainage where I'd had my own run-ins. They didn't stay to investigate. That's when I realized I was facing something beyond my expertise. 30 years of reading that landscape, and I couldn't explain it. Whatever had left those tracks wasn't in any field guide I'd read. In the early 80s, I was skiing into Heart Lake on the Thorofare with a group, 5 or 6 miles deep, where most people never went. We saw footprints crossing the trail, big ones, stretched far apart, deep in the snow, where they shouldn't have been. Then, coming into Howell Creek Cabin near Eagle Creek Pass in the mid-80s, we heard it again. That same sound from Fan Creek years earlier. I timed it, 26 seconds without a break, loud enough to carry 2 or 3 miles down the creek. No animal I've ever encountered makes that sound without breathing. The next morning, I looked for tracks. Nothing. Whatever made those sounds, whatever left those footprints scattered across the thoroughfare, it doesn't let you find it. That's part of what I've come to understand. It knows how to stay hidden. Here's what people don't realize about the backcountry. In 30 years of patrols, I've only found 2 bear carcasses. 2. And there are hundreds of grizzly bears out there. Same number of black bears. But their bodies won't stay on the ground. Something always takes care of them. Something removes them for survival before they become evidence. I've never found a body, never found definitive proof, but I've found enough pieces scattered across 30 years to know that something big, menacing, and intelligent lives in those mountains. Something that doesn't want you to find it. I never talked about this openly. Rangers can't. Speaking about it draws skepticism, threats to the job, and worse, the certainty that no one will believe you anyway. The old stories the Absaraka Indians told weren't folklore. They were warnings. I can't explain what I saw. I won't pretend that I can, but I know what my horses experienced, what my instincts told me, what years of evidence scattered across the mountains meant. If you're heading deep into Thorofare, understand that you're not alone out there. Something has maintained its territory there for centuries. It doesn't hide because it's afraid of us. It hides because it's waiting for you.